Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Friday, May 20th. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. If you thought COVID was no longer a concern, think again. Cases are up 40% in the county this week, and one portion of the population leads in new infections. KPBS health reporter Matt Hoffman on the urgent warnings being released.
San Diego County is seeing a consistent increase in COVID-19 cases. This week, we hit a daily high of 1,500 cases. That's what the region was seeing coming off of the winter Omicron surge in February.
The case numbers, I think, really are an underestimate of how much is going on.
Dr. Robert Schooley is an infectious disease specialist with UC San Diego Health. He thinks that there could be more viral spread, especially with many people opting for at-home COVID testing, which doesn't make it into official case counts.
What we're seeing now in case numbers is what was going on really last week in terms of viral transmissions. And so now is the time that instituting more masking and things is going to have a bigger impact on slowing things down than if we wait another week and say, wow, it really is surging.
Wastewater data from the Point Loma treatment plant also shows that the viral COVID load in San Diegan sewage is steadily increasing.
We're at levels that weren't as high as during the Omicron surge, but are higher than we were in the Delta surge.
San Diego is seeing the emergence of a new Omicron variant that is thought to be more infectious, but isn't making people as sick. Schooley says the vaccines don't prevent infection as well with the new BA4 variant, but data suggests that they still offer protection against hospitalization and death.
I'd be surprised if we see a large surge in deaths or in hospitalizations. We may see a bit of an increase as the number of cases rise.
As of Friday, there were 132 San Diegans hospitalized with COVID-19. While still relatively low numbers, they have been slightly increasing. The CDC just raised Los Angeles County's COVID risk level from low to medium. San Diego is still in the low category, but Schooley says those at high risk should be taking precautions.
When I go to the grocery store, I still put a mask on. It's not a big deal. Even though we're not at a high level right now, for me, it's something that I do when I'm around other people indoors.
County data shows the largest increase in infections is coming from San Diegans ages 20 to 39. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
And we have some breaking news. A federal judge in Louisiana has blocked the Biden administration from ending a controversial border policy. Title 42 allows border agents to turn away asylum seekers without allowing them to see a judge first, using the pandemic and public health as justifications. The CDC, though, now says the policy is no longer necessary given current conditions and available vaccines. Title 42 was scheduled to end on Monday. However, 24 states filed suit to keep it. Immigration advocates called the judge's decision a big loss.
We think the decision is misguided. It will perpetuate an illegal and racist policy and continue to put a lot of vulnerable people's lives in danger.
Title 42 has been used to turn vulnerable migrants away from the U.S. nearly 2 million times. It's the second Trump-era asylum policy that President Joe Biden has been unable to terminate. A federal judge also prevented the Biden administration from ending Remain in Mexico, which forces asylum seekers to live in Mexico while their cases are adjudicated. The city of San Diego's no-fault eviction moratorium goes into effect this weekend. KPBS reporter Kitty Alvarado with what this means to tenants and their landlords.
I was totally stressed before I got help. I didn't know what I was going to do.
San Diegan Barbara Green has been served several eviction notices. She's a single mom of 3. She's caught up on her rent, but says the landlord wants to give them the boot loophole in eviction law: renovations.
The landlord is just greedy, and he's never made proper renovations the whole 7 years that I've been here. He just wanted to make more money.
But Molly Kirkland with the Southern California Rental Housing Association says this adds unnecessary burdens for landlords who want to sell their properties and or waited to do renovations because of the pandemic. Now, Kirkland says owners have to wait 6 additional months to sell and need a court order to do major renovations.
There are quite a few property owners out there that are frustrated with all the regulation that's been piled on over the last couple of years.
This costs the city nothing, and it applies to everyone. And so just like that, through this policy change, every renter in San Diego has more protections.
San Diego Council President Shanilo Rivera spearheaded this no-fault eviction ban. He says if you're paying rent, are abiding by the terms of your lease, and are being evicted, this applies to you.
We hear every single day, what are you doing about homelessness? What are you doing, right? We see the problem getting worse. And there's the work that we have to do to get folks off the streets, but a big part of this is preventing people from falling into homelessness.
He makes it clear this does not apply to people who are behind on their rent, but rather to landlords who abuse the system.
Because the rental market is so tight, we were learning that some landlords were taking advantage of that. They were moving folks out, doing pretty what I would say superficial renovations, and then they were able to jack up the rent for the next tenant in a pretty substantial way. So there was a ton of profit incentive there to do that. And the ramifications for the families who were moved out were pretty serious.
Gil Vera with Legal Aid San Diego says it's a lot more common than many would like you to believe.
No-fault evictions was the #1 thing that City of San Diego tenants were calling legal aid, requesting assistance with.
Green says that for people like her, this no-fault eviction moratorium will make the difference between being housed and being homeless.
I appreciate it. I'm glad that they passed it. It will help a lot of people as long as they know their rights.
Kitty Alvarado, KPBS News.
Emotions ran high at the San Diego Union High School board meeting last night. Community members rallied to express their opinions over recent controversies swirling through the district. KPBS North County reporter Tanya Thorne has this follow-up report.
Firewalk! Firewalk! Parents, students, and community members rallied outside the San Diego Union High School District headquarters Thursday, ahead of a contentious school board meeting. One of the main tension points, recent comments Superintendent Cheryl James Ward made about Asian students during a district training and whether she should lose her job over the incident. James Ward was placed on administrative leave several weeks ago. The community stands divided over what should happen next. Some want James Ward fired, while others want her reinstated. Ilu is a Carmel Valley resident, and his children went to school in the district. He says James Ward should be fired.
When Ward make the comment about Chinese American children, they successful because of wealth, I feel like her comment is a slap on my cheek. And then she apologized, which is great. However, she went on the interview on the media, and she basically recorded her apologies.
James Ward publicly apologized over the comments she made, and KPBS reached her today for comment.
Last night, I heard some people say that I changed my story. I didn't change my story. I still said that I apologize for any harm or hurt that I caused. And I do. That has not changed. But what I also said was, all of this is for a whole different purpose.
School Board Vice President Michael Allman is caught up in the controversy. James Ward initiated an investigation earlier this spring into alleged inappropriate behavior by Allman, and she says her suspension is a form of retaliation for doing that. Allman has denied any wrongdoing, but there were calls for his resignation during last night's school board meeting. While no decisions came out of the meeting, James Ward says she will continue to talk to the community about diversity, equity, and inclusion for healing.
No vote. And that's why I plan to stay, because we have to move forward. We have to move forward. There are individuals who would like to take us back, but as long as I can, my goal is to move forward and to come back to the district and to move us forward, That's the goal.
James Ward has retained legal representation and says she may take action if she is fired. The next board meeting is scheduled for June 9th. Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
Still many empty shelves when it comes to infant formula, and according to data tracking agency Data Assembly, 45% of the product was out of stock on American shelves at some point last week, and in 10 states, half of the product was out of stock. The White House has invoked the Defense Production Act and Operation Fly Formula and says it secured the first batch of formula from an international supplier. SDSU's Miro Kopik has more in the Friday Business Report.
The Biden administration, they invoked the Defense Production Act, which is requiring the other three manufacturers of baby formula to not only step up their production of baby formula, but fill U.S. orders and fill whatever gaps there are in the market before they ship anything outside of the United States. The second thing that the Biden administration did is they authorized the Defense Department to use commercial aircraft to fly in baby formula from overseas. And that's baby formula that meets U.S. standards. The FDA finally reached agreement with Abbott Labs this week that they may reopen the plant in a couple of weeks. But when they have to kind of sanitize the plant, retrain their workers, and get production in, Abbott says basically they're looking at 6 to 8 weeks before their supply can hit the market. So the two actions by the Biden administration should be able to really kind of supplement that out of stock over the next 2 to 3 weeks. So by mid-June, supermarket shelves across the country should be relatively full.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, President Biden turns his attention to Asia in his first presidential visit to the region. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
One of the most competitive races in San Diego's June primary election is the race for City Council District 2. Incumbent Jen Campbell faces 5 challengers in the district, which covers Claremont, Mission Beach, and Point Loma. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen takes a closer look at some of those candidates and their priorities.
City Council member Jen Campbell assembled her supporters this week to tout one of her proudest accomplishments since taking office, a system to legalize and regulate short-term home rentals popularized by Airbnb. The issue had been at a stalemate for years, with hardliners on both sides. Campbell says she brokered the compromise.
We will close the chapter on the unregulated market that has vexed our city, our residents, and the good faith hosts who wanted a clear set of guidelines to follow.
The rules limit the number of full-time vacation rentals to 1% of the city's housing stock,
which will allow thousands of homes to come back onto our housing market and bring stability and normalcy and peace and quiet to our neighborhoods.
While Campbell is proud of the ordinance, her opponents in the race see it as a betrayal.
I'm just tired of not having responsive government or transparent government.
Mandy Havlick is an activist and member of the Peninsula Community Planning Board, where she's been a skeptic of growth and denser housing.
A lot of my background is in customer service, and I feel like that's something that's missing in the office. A lot of the issues with our current incumbent is, hey, I call, I have issues, and I'm not getting a response. I'm not getting a call back. And ultimately, we all want to feel seen and heard.
KPBS spoke with Havlick and 3 other candidates at a debate this week, which Campbell said she couldn't attend because of a scheduling conflict.
What kind of city are we giving my kids is the reason why I'm running.
Joel Day is a UCSD lecturer and former staffer in the mayor's office. He bills himself as the most detail-oriented candidate, with a short, medium, and long-term plan to tackle his top priority, homelessness.
We need safe encampment sites so that people get into the continuum of care and off of stoops and off of the streets. We need block leasing or master leasing so that the city directly can put people into units without security deposits, without credit checks, which are huge barriers of entry to rapidly rehouse people. And then finally, we need to build deeply affordable units.
Linda Lucas is a dentist, professor of dental hygiene, and a realtor. Among her top priorities is fixing San Diego's crumbling infrastructure, though she doesn't want to pay for those repairs with higher taxes.
A lot of us are being taxed out of the state, right? I don't know how much more of a burden we can handle. So my goal is to look for alternative funding measures, seek the maximum we can from the state and from our federal governments, and only if we've exhausted all other resources, then we can talk about raising taxes.
Lori Saldana is a former state assembly member and retired community college professor. What sets her apart in the crowded field of candidates?
Most experienced, only other besides the incumbent who's represented these people in elected office.
Saldana ran unsuccessfully for Congress in 2012, mayor in 2016, and county supervisor in 2018. She says her record in the legislature shows she was ahead of the curve in supporting same-sex marriage and the ban on the open carry of firearms.
So I think as the state changed, I really pushed on those issues, if not for me to get them through with my name on them, for others in future sessions to get them through.
District 2 is at the center of some hot debates in city politics, like how to redevelop the city-owned sports arena property in the Midway District, and how to update the Claremont Community Plan, which will change height and density limits in that neighborhood. The two candidates with the most votes in the primary will compete in a runoff on November 8th. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
For everything that you need to know about the June primary, you can go to kpbs.org and click on the Voter Hub tab. May is National Mental Health Awareness Month, and during this month, the YMCA of San Diego is providing resources to teens at all of their locations, including free admission to anyone between the ages of 13 and 24. There are also support groups that meet on a weekly basis to help families with dealing with mental health problems. The last 10 years have seen a significant decline in teen mental health.
Looking at the youngsters and at these teenagers and saying, we got you, but it's also looking at the parents and the caretakers and saying, we understand that this is an important issue, that it might be overwhelming for you.
The CDC reported in 2019 that almost 37% of teenagers had, quote, persistent feelings of sadness or hopelessness. And that same report also found that almost 19% of teenagers have thought about suicide, with almost 9% of those making an attempt. It's been a long time coming, but the main community swimming pool in City Heights is back open again after extensive renovations. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer says the reopening comes just in time for summer.
2, 1.
After a roughly 4-year wait, the City Heights Swim Center is back with a lot of improvements. The $4.6 million project began in 2018 and faced delays due to the pandemic. Some of the biggest upgrades include major renovations to the children's pool and main pool, as well as the installation of a new water play structure, slide, deck area, and drainage system.
What do you think of it? Do you like it?
Yes.
Yeah? Tell me about what's your favorite part.
The bucket will goes down.
4-year-old Manny Vasquez came to the pool with his mom, Janet, who was born and raised in City Heights.
It means a lot, actually, because, growing up here, I didn't have this. So, having my kids have this is just a blessing. So it just brings so much joy.
Vasquez says that she's already signed her 3 kids up for swim classes at the renovated public pool. The City Heights Swim Center will be open 3 days a week to start, Monday, Wednesday, and Sunday. That's less than some other pools across the city. Swimming pool manager Ray Weber says that's because of staffing shortages.
It's been busy. Last Sunday I had to reduce, I was not able to let everybody in. We had to pause admission for a while until some people left because I just didn't have enough lifeguards to cover the pool safely.
Weber says they're trying to actively hire more staff to open the pool on other days of the week. Mayor Todd Gloria and City Council President Sean Elo Rivera were joined by San Diego lifeguards, city staff, and members of the community to officially reopen the City Heights Swim Center this morning. San Diego Fire Rescue Department Lifeguard Chief James Gartland says the renovated pool can save lives.
I look at this pool a little bit different. Many people look at it as a sense of joy where you can come and swim and cool off in the summertime. I look at it as a life-saving tool. Every person that learns how to swim in this pool is a life saved.
Weber says they currently have 4 lifeguards on staff at the City Heights Swim Center and are sharing lifeguards from other pools. Colina del Sol is another public pool in City Heights that's open twice a week. But Vasquez says she'll go out of her way to come to the newly renovated swim center, as she says the other space needs upgrades. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
We're in for a cooler weather pattern as we head into the weekend, and then on top of that, we're going to be dealing with some gusty winds once again in the mountains and across the desert as well. Warmer weather will also return as we head into early next week. So lots of good things to talk about here across San Diego County. Notice the clouds, especially along the coastal areas. That marine layer is still sticking with us, and so are the clouds. That means temperatures will stay in the upper 50s for Oceanside, San Diego 61, Chula Vista 60, El Cajon 58, Ramona 53, Borrego Springs falling back to some 50s, and just around 50 degrees for Mount Laguna into those overnight hours. For Saturday, we'll find some building warmth once again. Might take some time to get there across, I'd say, the Central Sierra. You'll start to see that. Still going to be slightly cooler at the coast, but again, for a place like San Diego, this will be a gradual improvement. You're still going to have some of the clouds lingering across the area. Might get a little bit of a break in the cloud coverage for your afternoon hours on Saturday before they start to advance once again and come onshore. Don't think they'll make it too far west, or too far east rather. It should stay west of the mountains for sure, but that will also kind of limit our temperatures. This is what we're going to be seeing for your tomorrow afternoon. For your Saturday, right around 70 for San Diego, Oceanside 70, Escondido you're looking at 71, 92 for Borrego Springs. So a slight cool down, as I mentioned, even across the desert areas. You're going to see that. By the time we get into Sunday, it's warm and it's dry. Once again, we'll see some sunshine. Highs will return to above normal, but again, we're still going to have breezy conditions, so that will lead to some elevated wildfire danger, much like we've been tracking for this past week. Here's a look at the 5-day outlook around the coast. Temperatures staying around 70 degrees, even across the inland areas. Finally getting back up to 80 by Tuesday of next week. And across the mountains, you can see a little dip in temperatures for the weekend, but you do warm up back to the 70s by your next Wednesday. And for the desert, it's back to triple-digit heat by Tuesday. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Michelle Rotella.
There can never be enough ways to celebrate man's best friend, and today is National Dog Rescue Day, and people who adopt new pets this weekend will have their adoption fees waived thanks to Bounty Paper Towels and Best Friends Animal Society Network, and that includes San Diego Humane Society as well, where animals 7 months and older can be adopted with no fees. Pets will be spayed or neutered, vaccinated, microchipped, as well as be assessed medically and behaviorally. There are more than 100,000 pets waiting for homes at shelters across the country. Students at Madison High School are working on what they hope will become the world's fastest electric car. They've taken Team Vesco's Little Giant and made it even more powerful by using Revolt Systems, a San Diego-based company's electric motor. The car is the current record holder at 353 miles per hour, but they're hoping to reach 375 miles per hour.
The stars lined up, and I said this would be an awesome end of year project for the students, and now it's here. We give them instructions, and we just kind of oversee what they're doing, and they're using the tools, and they're installing parts, taking parts off, cleaning parts, preparing parts, inspecting parts, replacing parts. You know, it's a long process.
I want to take the opportunity to put my name on the car and learn a few things about electric vehicles and how they exactly work, because that's the future, and I think it'd be cool to learn how to work on future cars.
And all of their hard work is leading to racing in the 2022 World Finals this August in Utah. And now to an amazing story of adventure and survival. A Sicilian man is now in San Diego after completing a 10,000-mile journey in a powerboat. KPBS reporter John Carroll with his incredible story.
Think of great explorers and names like Ferdinand Magellan, or someone familiar to San Diegans, Juan Rodriguez Cabrillo, probably come to mind. But in this modern day, you can now add the name of Sergio Davi.
Thank you very much. Grazie mille per essere tutti qua.
Captain Sergio Davi doesn't speak much English, but it's easy to see he's happy to be in San Diego, and oh, what a journey it was to get here. Davi left his hometown of Palermo, Sicily in early January. His route took him through the Mediterranean, then an unexpected but unavoidable stop in the Canary Islands, then back out to and across the Atlantic, to and through the Panama Canal, and up the west coast of Mexico, finally arriving yesterday in San Diego. And there is the boat that got him here, a 32-foot rigid inflatable powerboat. So why would anyone want to make such a journey?
Passion for sailing,
sense of adventure.
Captain Davi says it was wonderful getting to know the people and the places where he stopped along the way, but there was also a big setback, and this is where the Canary Islands come into play. Not long into his journey, he contracted COVID. He stopped and recovered there. That took 20 days.
It was very complicated because having COVID in a foreign country was challenging.
But getting COVID wasn't the only unexpected experience along the way. Captain Davi did have a few scary moments at sea. There was the one day when he encountered some pirates.
He thought it was just like fisherman boat, but he saw the blue light was typically police light, but it was in international water, so it was impossible that it was police.
Fortunately, he had the horsepower to get away thanks to these two 300 horsepower Suzuki engines.
Ciao, ciao. He went ahead.
Captain Davi's trip was about more than just making the journey. He also did it to call attention to the plight of the world's oceans. He photographed various marine life and took water samples along the way, which will help scientists deepen their knowledge of how oceans are changing. Davi will stay in San Diego over the weekend, and then he'll motor up to San Pedro on Tuesday, and that will be the end of the boating part. He'll put the boat on a cargo ship, and then he will fly back home. John Carroll, KPBS News.
And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great weekend.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley. And by the following: by viewers like you. Thank you.